Espresso promises. The autumn light spilled through the tall windows of Meridian Cafe, casting warm rectangles across the worn wooden floor. Naomi Winters adjusted her apron and tucked a wayward strand of chestnut hair behind her ear, balancing 3 mugs of coffee with practiced precision. The cafe hummed with morning conversations, laptop keys clicking, and the steady hiss of the espresso machine. "Triple Americano for the corner table," she muttered to herself, weaving between chairs toward the window nook where he sat. Daniel Forrest was as reliable as the campus bell tower. Every morning at 7:30, he claimed the small corner table with the best natural light, spread his engineering drafts across the surface, and worked until his first class at 10:15. He wasn't flashy like the business students or dramatically intense like her fellow art majors. There was something quietly determined about the way his brow furrowed when he sketched, the careful way he measured lines with calloused fingers. "Your usual," Naomi said, placing the steaming mug beside his notebooks. He looked up, amber eyes crinkling at the corners. "My savior. I pulled an all-nighter finishing these foundation concepts." "Impressive," she remarked, genuinely admiring the intricate designs. "These don't look like standard engineering assignments." Daniel hesitated, then turned the notebook toward her. "They're not. Professor Hutchins thinks I'm wasting time on architectural elements when I should focus on structural engineering fundamentals, but I believe buildings should be beautiful and functional." Naomi studied the drawings, sweeping curves balanced with practical elements, all designed with an unusual attention to how sunlight would move through the spaces. She recognized artistic sensitivity rare among engineering students. "Your professor is wrong," she said with conviction. "These are extraordinary." Their conversation that morning lasted 15 minutes, her longest break violation that semester. Over the following weeks, their interactions expanded beyond coffee deliveries. She learned he'd grown up in a small town with parents who worked in construction, that he noticed everything about how people moved through spaces, that he stayed up reading architectural journals the way she devoured art history texts. When the cafe emptied during midterm week, Naomi brought her sketchbook to his table. She was working on environmental installation concepts, and somehow their creative approaches complemented each other perfectly. Daniel thought about how people would physically experience a space. Naomi understood how it would make them feel. "We should collaborate someday," he said one rainy afternoon in November. "Your installations inside my buildings." "Bold of you to assume you'll be famous enough to hire me?" she teased. Daniel laughed, a warm sound that had become increasingly familiar. "Maybe we'll both be struggling artists living in tiny apartments." "As long as they have good coffee, I could live with that," Naomi replied. Winter arrived with brutal winds that howled across campus. The cafe became a sanctuary of warmth, and their morning interactions stretched longer. Sometimes Daniel would leave small sketches on napkins for her, whimsical buildings with impossible geometries, or quick portraits of Naomi at work that captured her essence with just a few lines. Then came the envelope that changed everything. "The Wellington International Fellowship," Daniel said, his voice barely containing his excitement as he showed Naomi the acceptance letter. 3 years studying sustainable architectural engineering in Singapore and London. Naomi felt a complicated tangle of emotions, genuine happiness for him mixed with a hollow ache. "That's incredible, Daniel. When do you leave?" "May, right after graduation." His eyes searched hers. "It's my dream opportunity." "Then you absolutely have to go," she said firmly, ignoring the tightness in her chest. In their final weeks together, something shifted between them, an unspoken awareness that their daily ritual was ending. On Daniel's last morning at Meridian Cafe, he arrived earlier than usual and handed Naomi a small, carefully wrapped package. "Don't open it until tonight," he insisted. That evening, she unwrapped a beautifully detailed architectural model. A small gallery space with soaring ceilings and perfect light, with miniature versions of her actual art installations placed throughout. Attached was a handwritten note. "Someday, this will be real. I promise. Here's my new email. Don't forget me in that corner of your world." Naomi wrote to him weekly at first. Daniel responded when he could, his messages filled with excitement about his new experiences. But gradually, time differences, demanding schedules, and the natural drift of separate lives took their toll. After 6 months, their correspondence dwindled to occasional updates. After a year, to holiday greetings, and then silence. A silence that would last almost a decade. Worlds apart. The Manhattan skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Vantage Point design studio. Naomi stood before an elaborate mood board. Pins marking fabric swatches and color palettes for the Richardson wedding. Another 7-figure event for her rapidly growing company. Extraordinary moments. The client wants understated elegance. Yet, which we all know means they want to spend a fortune looking like they didn't, Naomi explained to her team, earning knowing chuckles. At 32, she had built a reputation as the event designer for clients who demanded perfection. Her assistant, Tessa, appeared at her side with a tablet. The Horizon Innovation people are here for their 2 p.m. Already? Naomi checked her watch. Show them to the blue conference room. I'll be there in 5. Horizon Innovations was the new client everyone was buzzing about. An architectural firm that had exploded onto the international scene with revolutionary sustainable designs. Their annual award ceremony was the industry's most prestigious event, and winning their business had been a significant coup for extraordinary moments. Naomi quickly refreshed her appearance in the office bathroom mirror, straightening her tailored blazer and reapplying her signature coral lipstick. Success had refined her. The bohemian art student had evolved into a polished professional with an eye for immaculate details. In the conference room, she greeted 2 impeccably dressed executives who introduced themselves as Horizon's event coordinators. "We're thrilled to be working with you," she said, shaking their hands. "I've admired Horizon's work for years. Our CEO speaks highly of your aesthetic sensibility," the woman replied. "He was quite insistent we partner with your firm." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "Your CEO was involved in selecting an event planner?" "Mr. Forrest is particular about design in all aspects," the man explained. "He believes environments shape experiences." The name didn't register immediately as Naomi launched into her presentation, a concept that would transform the National Design Museum's atrium into an immersive celebration of sustainable innovation. She was deep into explaining lighting concepts when Tessa slipped her a note. "CEO requesting virtual join for last 10 min. Naomi nodded, continuing seamlessly. Minutes later, the large screen on the conference room wall illuminated, and the face of Horizon's founder appeared. Naomi's voice caught mid-sentence. Daniel Forrest looked both familiar and transformed. His boyish features had matured into sharp angles, his casual student attire replaced by a perfectly tailored suit. Success had written itself across his bearing, but those observant amber eyes remained unchanged. If he recognized her, he didn't show it. "Ms. Winters, I apologize for joining late. I'm currently in our Tokyo office." Naomi recovered quickly, sliding into her professional persona. "Not at all, Mr. Forrest. We were just discussing the interactive elements planned for the central space." Throughout the remainder of the meeting, Naomi maintained impeccable composure while her mind raced. Daniel Forrest. The engineering student with architectural dreams was now Daniel Forrest of Horizon Innovations, whose sustainable skyscrapers were transforming cityscapes across 3 continents. When the meeting concluded, Daniel addressed her directly. "Your concepts are exceptional. Ms. Winters, I look forward to seeing them realized." There was something in his tone, professional yet tinged with an undefinable quality that made her wonder if he remembered. After the Horizon team departed, Naomi retreated to her office and sank into her chair. With shaking fingers, she opened her laptop and searched Daniel Forrest Horizon Innovations. Thousands of results appeared: interviews, profiles in architectural magazines, TED Talks. A Forbes cover declared him the visionary rebuilding how we live. Photos showed him breaking ground on major projects, speaking at climate summits, receiving awards. One particular image caught her attention: Daniel standing before a striking gallery building in Chicago. Its soaring ceilings and ingenious use of natural light struck her as oddly familiar. The caption read, "Forrest's acclaimed luminance gallery, inspired by an early design dream, has revolutionized exhibition spaces for environmental art." Naomi's hand flew to her mouth as memory surfaced. A tiny architectural model, given as a parting gift almost a decade ago. She dug through her storage closet that evening until she found the box containing keepsakes from her college years. The model was there, dusty but intact. She compared it to photos of the actual gallery online. The resemblance was unmistakable. He had built it. He had actually built her gallery. Across the world in Tokyo, Daniel Forrest stood at his hotel window, staring at the city lights. On his tablet was an open tab showing Naomi Winters' professional profile, her composed smile revealing nothing of the girl who once brought him coffee. He closed the device, wondering if she had kept his promise or even remembered who he was. The recognition. The National Design Museum buzzed with activity as Naomi directed her team through the final rehearsal for the Horizon Innovation Awards. In 12 hours, the space would welcome 500 of architecture's elite to celebrate groundbreaking achievements in sustainable design. The projection, mapping on the west wall, still isn't synchronized. "With the music," she called to her technical director, "and the spotlighting for the stage entrances needs to be warmer." "On it," he replied, making notes. Naomi consulted her clipboard. Only one major component remained untested, the founder's special presentation, scheduled as the evening's culmination. According to the itinerary, Daniel Forrest would unveil Horizon's most ambitious project to date, something they were calling the Restoration Initiative. "The CEO's team is requesting a private walkthrough," Tessa informed her. "They've just arrived." Naomi smoothed her hair. Despite 2 weeks of intensive preparation, she and Daniel hadn't directly interacted since that first virtual meeting. She'd deliberately delegated subsequent planning sessions to her team. Citing scheduling conflicts, "Ms. Winters?" came a voice from behind her. She turned to find Daniel standing alone, dressed casually in a charcoal sweater and jeans, a stark contrast to his polished screen presence. "Mr. Forrest," she responded evenly. "I didn't expect you personally." "Where's your team?" "I gave them the afternoon off." He gazed around the transformed space with appreciation. "This is extraordinary work. Would you mind showing me through it yourself?" For the next hour, Naomi guided him through the meticulously designed experience, explaining lighting concepts, interactive elements, and symbolic features that honored Horizon's commitment to environmental harmony. Daniel asked insightful questions. Clearly impressed by the thoughtfulness behind each decision, they reached the central installation, a suspended sculpture of interconnected elements representing the relationship between human innovation and natural systems. "This is remarkable," he said, studying the piece. "It reminds me of an art installation I saw years ago." The artist used similar connecting elements to represent human relationships. Naomi's pulse quickened. That had been her senior thesis project at university. "The interconnectedness of lives," she said quietly. "How brief encounters leave permanent marks." Daniel's eyes snapped to hers. For a moment, the professional veneer between them wavered. "Naomi from Meridian Cafe," he said softly. "You recognized me all along," she nodded. "I found out after our first meeting. You've come quite far from those engineering drafts at the corner table." A complicated smile crossed his face. "Not as far as you might think. Most of my designs still start as sketches, on coffee shop napkins." An awkward silence stretched between them, 10 years of unshared experiences creating an invisible barrier. "I saw the Luminance Gallery in Chicago," she finally said. "It looks exactly like the model you gave me." Daniel's expression softened with vulnerability she hadn't yet seen in his public persona. "It was the first major project I designed independently. The board thought I was crazy to insist on those specifications for an unknown gallery space." "Why did you build it?" she asked. He hesitated, then answered with quiet honesty. "Because I made a promise." Before Naomi could respond, her communications director approached with an urgent question about the press arrangements. By the time she finished addressing the issue, Daniel had been swept away by arriving members of his executive team. That night, Naomi stood in her apartment, staring at her reflection as she prepared for the gala. Her team could handle the execution. They'd insisted she actually enjoy the event as a guest for once. But something deeper than professional obligation drove her meticulous preparation. She chose a midnight blue gown that caught the light with subtle shimmer, reminiscent of the night sky they'd once discussed during a late study session at the cafe. As her car approached the museum, Naomi steeled herself for an evening of careful professionalism. Whatever history lay between them, tonight was about horizon innovations and the successful execution of an important client event. Personal matters would have to wait. She couldn't have anticipated what awaited her inside. Unfinished symphony. The gala unfolded flawlessly, ambient lighting shifting through subtle environmental themes, interactive installations engaging guests, champagne flowing as networking filled the air with animated conversation. Naomi circulated through the crowd, graciously accepting compliments while keeping a watchful eye on operational details. She glimpsed Daniel periodically throughout the evening, commanding attention at the center of various groups, shaking hands with industry leaders, always projecting the confidence of someone who had transformed his field. From a distance, she could hardly reconcile this influential figure with the student who once counted coins for his daily coffee. The award ceremony began, recognizing innovations in sustainable architecture with elegant statuettes designed to evoke natural forms. Throughout the presentations, Naomi maintained her position near the back wall, observing the proceedings with professional satisfaction. As the final award concluded, the lights dimmed. Daniel took the stage to present Horizon's newest initiative. The crowd fell silent as he began speaking about architecture's responsibility to repair environmental damage, not merely minimize it. Behind him, stunning visualizations displayed a revolutionary approach to urban redesign that would actively regenerate natural systems. The future of design isn't about leaving minimal footprints, he said, his voice resonating through the space. It's about creating positive impressions. Every structure should give more than it takes. The audience erupted in applause as the presentation concluded. As conversations resumed and music returned, Naomi slipped outside to the museum's rooftop garden for a moment of quiet. The Manhattan skyline sparkled before her, a testament to human ingenuity and to the environmental challenges Daniel's work aimed to address. You disappeared. Before I could thank you properly, came his voice from behind her. Naomi turned to find Daniel approaching, award in hand. Congratulations, she said. The restoration initiative is extraordinary. We have a long way to go before it's reality, he replied, joining her at the railing. But tonight was an important first step. They stood in silence for a moment, the cool evening air carrying distant sounds of celebration from below. Why didn't you respond to my last emails? Daniel asked suddenly. We were in touch that first year, and then... The directness of the question caught her off guard. I saw a magazine article about you in the Wellington program. There was a photo of you with Sofia Calderon, the famous environmental engineer. The caption called you two the perfect architectural power couple. You seemed to be building exactly the life you wanted. Daniel shook his head. Sofia and I worked on one project together. The magazine invented a relationship that never existed. He turned to face her fully. I sent you designs for months after that article. You never replied. I thought you had moved on, Naomi admitted. And I was struggling. My scholarship funding was cut. I had to take on 3 jobs to stay in school. Your life seemed to be unfolding so perfectly, and mine was falling apart. The distance between us felt insurmountable. Understanding dawned in his expression. While I was studying abroad, my father had a stroke, he said quietly. I nearly quit the program to go home. Those designs I sent you, they were the only thing keeping me focused, imagining someday creating something meaningful. When you stopped responding, I threw myself entirely into work. Naomi's chest tightened with the weight of misunderstandings and missed connections. I'm so sorry about your father. Is he... He recovered, Daniel assured her. He's retired now, critiques all my buildings. A small smile crossed his face. He actually helped oversee the construction of Luminance Gallery. "It's beautiful," she said sincerely. Even more impressive than the model, the string quartet inside began playing a waltz that drifted up to the garden. Daniel set his award on a nearby table and extended his hand. "You still remember how to dance?" he asked, echoing words from their last university formal before his departure. Naomi hesitated, then placed her hand in his. "I might be a bit out of practice." They moved together beneath the stars, the city lights creating a panoramic backdrop to their reunion. As they danced, the years between them seemed simultaneously vast and insignificant. "I looked for you," Daniel confessed, "after I established Horizon. I tried to find you through mutual contacts, but everyone said you'd moved away after graduation. I went to Paris for an internship, then London," she explained. "I changed my name professionally. Winters is my mother's maiden name. I wanted to build my career on my own terms." Daniel nodded with understanding. "And you've built something remarkable." As the music continued, Naomi gathered her courage. "Why did you choose my company for this event? There are dozens of excellent event firms in New York." Daniel's dance steps slowed. "I recognized your aesthetic immediately in your portfolio. No one else understands how space affects human emotion quite like you do." He paused, and perhaps part of me hoped you might remember me too. In that moment, the carefully maintained professional distance between them dissolved. They were no longer CEO and event designer, but simply Daniel and Naomi, two people whose paths had diverged and somehow found their way back to intersection. "I never forgot you," she admitted softly. "I kept every design you sent." Blueprints of Forever Dawn broke over the city as Naomi and Daniel walked along the Hudson River Greenway, coffee cups in hand, a conscious echo of their cafe days. They had talked through the night, filling in 10 years of gaps between them, discovering the people they had become. "So your company is expanding to international events next year?" Daniel asked, sipping from his cup. Naomi nodded. "We're opening offices in Paris and Singapore. The global luxury market has been requesting our services for years, but I wanted to establish solid foundations here first." "Singapore," Daniel mused. "That's where Horizon's Asia-Pacific headquarters are located." Their eyes met briefly, both recognizing the potential alignment, but neither quite ready to acknowledge it directly. The morning light cast long shadows as they continued walking. "What happened to your environmental art installations?" Daniel asked. "You were so passionate about them in school." A wistful expression crossed Naomi's face. "Life happened. Building a business required focus. The installations became something I promised myself I'd return to someday." "Someday has a way of never arriving unless we make it," Daniel observed. They reached a small parklet and settled on a bench overlooking the water. The weight of lost years hung between them, alongside the tentative possibility of new beginnings. "I'm not the same person you knew in that cafe," Naomi said finally. "Success has made me more cautious, more calculating. I've built walls to protect what I've created." Daniel considered her words. "We're all shaped by our experiences. I've become more driven, more impatient with limitations. My team would tell you I'm impossible when I believe in a vision others can't yet see." "Is that why you've never married?" Naomi asked, the question escaping before she could reconsider. A slight smile tugged at his lips. "The official story is that I'm married to my work. The truth is more complicated." He turned to face her directly. "I've dated, of course. There have been relationships, but they always felt incomplete, as if I was comparing them to a possibility that never had the chance to develop." The honesty of his admission hung in the morning air. Naomi felt the careful professional persona she'd cultivated beginning to crack. "I almost called you 3 years ago," she confessed. "I was in Chicago for an event and saw the Luminance Gallery. Standing in that space, knowing you had created it from the model you gave me, I nearly reached out. But I convinced myself it was foolish sentimentality." "What stopped you?" "Fear," she admitted. "Fear that you wouldn't remember me, or worse, that you would. But I'd become nothing more than an anecdote from your past." Daniel shook his head slowly. "You were never just an anecdote, Naomi." They fell silent, watching early morning rowers glide across the water. After a moment, Daniel reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small sketchbook. He opened it to reveal dozens of design, variations for spaces that looked remarkably like the installations she'd once created. Every major building I've designed has spaces, intentionally created for environmental art. Installations, he explained, turning pages to show her. The board thinks they're architectural features, but I've always seen them as spaces waiting to be filled. Naomi studied the sketches, emotion welling in her throat. You've been designing spaces for art that doesn't exist. Art that doesn't exist yet, he corrected gently. I know this is presumptuous after all this time, but I have a proposition. She raised an eyebrow, professional instincts kicking in. I'm listening. Horizon is launching a global sustainability initiative, transforming public spaces in cities where environmental degradation is most severe. We're combining architectural innovation with community engagement. He hesitated. The project needs an artistic director, someone who understands how to create experiences that change how people feel about their environment. Naomi's mind raced with implications. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a collaboration, he clarified. Your company would handle the experiential design elements independently. Complete creative control, separate branding, proper compensation. I just want the chance to finally build something together, the way we talked about all those years ago. The proposition was professionally intriguing, but emotionally complex. Daniel, I can't make decisions based on nostalgia or whatever this is between us. I'm not asking you to, he assured her. Review the proposal with your team. Consider it from every angle. If it doesn't make sense professionally, we'll find another way forward personally, if that's what you want. The distinction he drew between their professional and personal connections gave her the space she needed. And if I say no to the collaboration? Daniel's expression remained open. Then I still want to know the woman you've become. No expectations, no pressure. Just coffee again, somewhere between your world and mine. As the sun climbed higher, they walked back toward the city center, discussing the broad strokes of his proposal. At a crosswalk, Naomi realized they had reached a literal and figurative intersection. I have a board meeting at 9, she said, checking her watch. Daniel nodded. And I have a flight to Chicago at noon. The moment felt fragile, a decision point that could easily become another decade of separation. When will you be back in New York? She asked. 2 weeks, he replied. Unless I have reason to return sooner. Naomi took a deep breath, then reached into her purse for a business card. Turning it over, she wrote something on the back before handing it to him. Daniel looked at the card, then back at her with a questioning expression. My personal number, she explained, and the address of a little cafe in Greenwich Village that makes decent coffee. Not as good as I used to make, but it has a corner table with excellent natural light. A slow smile spread across his face, the same smile that had once brightened her mornings years ago. Saturday morning? I'll be there at 7:30, she promised. As they parted ways at the crosswalk, Naomi felt something she hadn't experienced in years, the exhilarating uncertainty of a future unwritten. They were no longer the struggling students sharing dreams over coffee, but two people who had built remarkable lives independently. Whatever came next would be constructed on stronger foundations. 3 months later, a small gallery in Brooklyn hosted the opening of a new installation, a collaborative piece created by architectural visionary Daniel Forrest and environmental artist Naomi Winters. The central element was a delicate structure of light and sustainable materials that created different perspectives from every angle. Its title, inscribed on a simple plaque, Espresso Promises, Blueprints of a Reconnection. Beneath the title was a smaller inscription that only the artists truly understood. Some designs take 10 years to build. The best ones are worth the wait.